Do you hate doing your taxes? Everyone does. Ever wonder whose fault it is? Well, I'm here to tell you. But first, here's a thought experiment. Imagine you are me. You're calculating your tax bill and somehow you underpay $5,000 in taxes. What happens next? The government will contact you and make you pay back the $5,000 that you owe. Why the hell didn't you just mail me the bill? IRS, you know where I live.
Huh?
And what's the point of me calculating the bill? I guess there are a few things you don't already know about me, like how much money I donated to Goodwill last year for a decent tax break. But let's be real, it could have easily just been a simple internet survey that doesn't have to change too much every year, or at least one that's easy to follow. Things would be so much simpler, and then I could skip the part where I pay some guy or a computer my hard-earned cash just to calculate this annoying bill for me. I'd save so much money and time. I feel like I'm getting scammed. Don't you? And some might say, you don't have to pay a guy. Just learn how to do your own taxes. But the IRS makes updates on tax forms every year, so it becomes difficult for the average American to stay up to date with tax forms. Being able to do your own taxes shouldn't have to be a skill, just something that people can easily figure out. The same way an unsupervised 12-year-old figures out internet porn. They clear their browsing history and ask themselves, is that all I really had to do? And then it's just something they do every year. The taxes, not the corn. People make careers out of doing people's taxes for fuck's sake. Wouldn't it be awesome if they taught us this in high school like CPR or sex ed? So I still have to pay some guy every year to figure out my tax bill. A tax bill that I have to pay to the government. A bill they calculate themselves because they don't trust me to carry the one. Am I getting scammed? I feel like I'm getting scammed. It's actually not even that complicated. One of the biggest profiters of this crappy tax system is actually a company called TurboTax. It's basically a robot that does your taxes. They have an incentive to maintain this complicated tax system. In fact, TurboTax owner Intuit put nearly $1 million in just 3 months straight in the pockets of politicians. It's not bribing, it's lobbying. It's a form of free speech. It's totally legit. They want to keep the tax system difficult for the average American taxpayer. This is their whole business model. The harder it is for the average Joe to do their own taxes, the more customers they're likely to have. Even crazier, there's people in certain tax brackets that qualify for free tax services, but many of them don't even realize it and end up forking over money on tax software. It's estimated that tax software companies make about $1 billion of revenue a year. Something tells me they have their fingers wrapped around the IRS, and I don't like it. Fortunately, there are ways for the average Joe to do their taxes for free. So what are the alternatives?
Number 1.
One idea is to use GPT-4 to help you out the same way the tax guy does. But this just feels like more work than paying a guy.
Number 2.
Now don't get me wrong, it's no Saul Goodman, but there's actually websites that help people do their taxes for free. I've never used them because they're not very useful if you're trying to lower your tax bill, but I'm sure they're fairly reliable.
Number 3.
Just learn it online. You can learn anything on the internet if you're patient enough. And if you make a mistake, it's not really that big of a deal. You'll just have to pay it later. When the IRS checks your math, of course. It's free, but it's not easier than paying someone to do it for you. Me personally, I'm just gonna keep paying the guy. It's easier and it helps me not stress about it. In the grand scheme of things, tax accountants and software companies aren't really butt-f***ing me harder than California taxes do. In fact, California taxes me every year. So what would you do with your extra money if you didn't have to pay some guy to do your taxes? I know what I would do. I'd be spending that money on something more useful like FTX tokens and CryptoZoo NFTs. So that's the end of the video, and as the young people like to say, stay awake. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Can the IRS tax these nuts? And if so, how much are they entitled to? How much of these nuts are they entitled to?